Desai, who is coming with 40 years of experience, and like, that's way more than what I was born before as well. Also, he's also from NMIMS. He's a chartered accountant, and I did my MBA there, so there's a small connect out there. But one very important question which we are going to talk about today is the biggest dilemma that when you have when you're starting your interviews is, how do I choose which specialization do I want? Am I a fit for a marketing or a finance? So what would you say, sir? How do we make this decision?
So let me give you our example. In the good old days, there was a very clear demarcation. You go in for engineering, you go in for accountancy, you go in for medicine. Today, that's not so.
True.
When the young people have so many options, but there are so many options, they have to be also be careful.
Yes.
So my recommendation is that, having seen over a period of time growth in industries, what is the most important thing that will affect their careers in the next 2 decades?
Okay.
Now, when you look at, so let me just give you an example of what we do here in infrastructure management, and that's a main course that we have, a 2-year course. So when someone wants to look at a broader career, but they want still a direction, then here is a course.
Okay.
Infrastructure is the story for the next 2 decades, not only in India but all over the globe. And in that context, with mobility available, people can look at this as a really good option. So, if you are an engineer and you want to add management to your profile, you can of course go in for the general management. But at some point of time, because you need to be, people are looking at some level of clear skills that they can use immediately.
Correct.
And here is a sector which is growing so much there, whereby the skills that are really in big demand. Now that's one of the ways to look at from a
So
selection point
if
of view.
I may say, I mean, no offense, but when you look at infrastructure management, the first vision that you get, the visual thing that comes to your head is probably a construction site with an engineer with a yellow hat standing out there. So how is infrastructure management different from that?
Yeah. So you're right. Infrastructure means everything that we see around.
True.
Your buildings, your dams, and your roads, all those things that make up. But there are so many aspects of, it's basically part of a society. So when you look at the society, how it has to grow, and today with the huge amount of urbanization, these issues are to be looked at slightly differently. It's not just about the brick and mortar. So you
True.
have to look at the way in which how these facilities, these assets come up and can be used, you know, in the by the society in a better way. So when you look at that part, you are you are very clearly looking at infrastructure from a managerial perspective,
Okay.
and knowing that it's about all about managing these facilities in the context in which there will be efficiency, there will be a lot of effectiveness, because ultimately it's all about how the value is created. Now, when you look at that, it is not just simply an engineering part of it.
Okay.
And we also have to understand that infrastructure is the fundamental basic structure for all industries.
Okay.
Now, from an economic development, if there is poor infrastructure, it's going to affect economy in every way, because manufacturing, service sectors, they all need this basic structure. So when you understand this structure in all its details, it's much easier to apply them in all other respects in manufacturing, service industries also.
So then when you're looking at all of them, so even the power and the telecom all comes under this infrastructure
Yeah,
itself.
there are about 7 large sectors. So you have
Okay.
transportation, your energy, where you have the power and gas and
Yeah.
everything, oil
Okay.
and gas.
Okay.
You have the telecom sector. You have the water, waste, and you have the larger social infrastructure.
So
So it's
anyone who's doing infrastructure management can actually go work in technology,
yeah,
consulting, power and energy, and all of them as well. Also.
all of them. And there are, you see, in a typical infrastructure management, what we teach is there are certain common standardization available across the sector, and
Okay.
there are some specific things. So you need to understand a couple of sectors very detailed, but you can understand at least about large portion of them. How do they behave in
Okay.
a common way?
And you can use the same
You can use the
outside the
same stuff.
sectors as well.
So that's the skill of how the learning comes in.
Okay.
How do you, how our course and the teachers also explain.
So then why do we come up with something like a specialized thing in law in infrastructure management?
So let me tell you about the infrastructure in particular. Infrastructure is all about the public and private partnership in a large way too. It's like many times there are sovereign assets which are available for work by the private sector.
Correct.
Now, when you bring in this structure where there is a public good involved, there is of course the general requirement that there is a tremendous amount of regulatory aspect that will come in.
Correct.
And all these sectors are regulated sectors.
Yes.
So learning about law, learning about how the sector has evolved, how the legal part is also to be looked at along with the functional part. Now that is why when we were teaching the infrastructure management, we very clearly understood the need for doing a separate course on legal and regulatory.
Okay.
We could not cover all aspects. You take up,
Yeah.
let's say, even something like a energy sector. Now, we can teach the domain of the sector, some regulatory aspects, but not in a detailed way.
True.
And so that is how we felt that there was really a need for that. A lot of corporates need, a lot of commercial requirements need these skill sets. So here is a case whereby we teach, in that course we teach management, we teach the domain of infrastructure, and we
And
then
teach them law.
get into the specific regulatory aspects.
Okay, that's interesting. So, apart from this, so you've been taking interviews in the past 40 years, like 4 decades of training and taking interviews from students. When you are sitting at the interview panelist, what is it that you look forward to in the candidates? Like, what makes you select them?
So over a period of time, we have understood that there is a concept like a differentiating competencies. At the end of the day, we want that. I mean, to bring about differentiation, there are some very different skills that are required. And one of the most important thing is the level of passion that you have in what you are doing.
Okay.
So if we feel that someone, because you see in the next 2 decades there is going to be a lot of disruptions. So we feel that people who are interested in doing new things, something they can adapt well, that level of sense of feeling is there. We would love those people to take up
Yes.
these courses, and they come in from engineering background, come in from graduate background, from commerce, arts. They can pick up this if they are passionate about what they want to learn about.
Okay.
There's a structured way of learning, but it's a very pretty broad. Earlier you had only a few paths.
Yes.
Now you have large, but that means that there has to be a lot of passion among the
So
students.
keen interest and a
That's
passion
one.
towards learning.
Yeah.
Very
Second
important.
thing is that they are spending 2 years,
Yeah.
so it's a lot of hard work. You are looking at very different subjects of different disciplines coming together, and then you are connecting the dots. So you need
Correct.
to have that level of what you call care to say that this is my time and I will make the maximum out of it. Now
True.
these two things are purely behavioral. Then of course there
Nice.
is a basic level of competencies that are required, some amount of domain that is required. And but the learning part, if that zeal and enthusiasm is there, that's what we
So
care
the
for.
two major things, like in your opinion, would be one would be passion, be
Hard
very
work,
passionate
yeah,
and hard work for it, and secondly, be able to connect the
connect the
dots.
dots, yeah.
So connect your story well. So this is what guys everybody looks for in experience panels and everything. So
So what
should
he
we focus
learns
on?
is, when he learns in economics, statistics, or any of the tools of finance and accounts, with that he is going into the larger aspects of understanding how the real world of infrastructure works.
Correct.
So there are large project risks, project finance, closures, all those things are to be connected, which are not
Not.
just a simple, they are all a lot of hybrid structures has to be put together.
Yes.
That is a skill of applying the early learnings to advanced complexities is what the course is about.
Okay, so you also mentioned about that, in there's a lot of society work and all of them also goes in. So do you think people coming with a little bit of social work or NGO or volunteering experience on their profile adds value?
Yeah, see, today if you look at it, where is the value coming in from? A lot of emphasis is given on the governance, the ESG part,
Yeah,
environment, society, and the governance
correct.
part. So that becomes a tremendous value creator for most organizations.
Yes.
Now there are people with this passion of doing something different in the society, of bringing in a very different level of environment. Now those are the people who also can really get into this course and
True.
be part of it, learn from it, and then of course apply in an integrated manner.
Of course.
So we have some specialized courses in how health, safety, environment.
Okay.
We have something on ethics and governance. So all are the things which are they connect the the broader more high domain
Domains.
areas.
Okay, that's really interesting. So thank you so much,
Thank you.
Devang sir, for your time. It's been a pleasure to understand
Pleasure
all
is all
the
mine.
insights.
Thank you.
Thank